California love. This is Cory, and this is the Anthem podcast.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's Rob.
Sounds a little bit different when it doesn't have all those synthetic, like, California love.
Thought for a second that I had stepped... Tupac had come back from the grave. And
welcome, everybody, to the Wild Wild West.
A state that's untouchable like Elliot Ness. Anyway, sorry. We was about to break it down. Yeah. So... I'm
going to have to put that on my, like, driving into L.A., like...
Do you have an L.A. mix?
I'm going to have to put... Well, I had an L.A. mix that I did last time I drove in. Are you doing live video?
Yes, I am.
I started it, like, as soon as I got to, like, the city limit, I was just like, all right. The GPS said it was going to be, like, another 45 minutes or so until I got to my place. And I was just like, all right, time to put on the California mix. And I got, like, 2 songs in. And I'm like, oh, I'm here. How the hell did that happen?
No traffic in L.A.? What?
I just coasted right through.
Oh, hey. And then that was the end of your coasting ever in L.A. There was nothing but traffic for the next 2 months.
You know, I know that if I lived there, I would deal with traffic all the time. All the time.
Yeah.
But I never really dealt with, like, outrageous traffic, you know?
Well, I mean, sure you did.
Not like...
I mean, not like days-long backups, but...
Yeah, it's not like I was in Beijing.
yeah. You know that service in Beijing where, like, they send a guy out on a moped, and he gives you the moped and sits in your car and waits for it?
That's awesome.
I'll drop it off at your house whenever we're done.
That's going to be Rob's thing when he gets...
Oh, no. Rob will just call Uber Copter and come pick me up. None of this nonsense.
Uber boat.
Exactly right.
Swim out to your Uber boat. And...
Did you take the Uber boat while I was in Baltimore?
No. Why would I?
Because, just to do it.
No.
Because you baller like that. Because you got it like that. You know what I mean?
I don't got it like that.
You a Ubala.
Do you use that line when you pick people up?
I don't, but maybe I should start using the term Ubala for people. Just like, wait, where are we going? Virginia. Ooh, Ubala, let go.
Just say it for every destination, regardless of whether or not it's like...
Going down the block? Ubala.
Royal Farm? Ubala.
Well, so you're beating around the bush a little bit, but why is it that you will be playing California Love?
Because in less than 24 hours from now, I will be on a plane ride.
Not to California, though.
Not to California. Just to Vegas.
Just to Vegas.
Mm-hmm. And then 2 days after that, I'll be in California. So on Monday, I'll be in California.
Jet set life. Must be nice.
And here's the fun thing. If you do it as one-way flights,
right?
So Baltimore area to Vegas to LA, back to Baltimore.
Baltimore area.
Yeah.
What's the Baltimore area there, Cory?
Dulles.
I don't know that that's what the previous Baltimore mayors envisioned as the Baltimore area.
Well, I would love to fly out of BWI, but unfortunately it was like $150 more a flight.
I thought you got it like that.
To fly out of... Why waste it?
Jet set lifestyle.
That can go on ladies' G-strings.
Is Rachel going to let you go to a strip club?
Rachel's going to a strip club?
Is she going to go with you to the same strip club we went to?
Which one?
The one that we went to.
In Vegas?
The huge one in Vegas.
Oh, no, I'm not going to Vegas. That was a ripoff. Listen, if I was somebody else...
Yeah.
For the sake of argument, let's just say Zach. Let's say my name was Zach.
Right.
And I desperately wanted to make a wife of one of these women. Then perhaps I would go to that strip club, but
not normal Cory.
No.
I
have the triumvirate is the only one who doesn't have any overwhelming desire to marry a stripper.
And that's the intro right there. I have the triumvirate and the only one who has no desire to marry a stripper. I don't have a desire to marry a stripper.
You just want to do nasty stripper things to a stripper.
Well, I'd like the stripper to do nasty stripper things to me.
Well, yeah, yes. I mean...
But shortly thereafter, 2 days after Vegas, you will be going to the City of Angels.
Mm-hmm.
La Ciudad de Maria de Angeles.
Yes.
It's like 32.
Yeah,
words
no.
long. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm never going to take the time to remember...
The actual name of the city?
Like, wouldn't it be funny, though, if you were able to, like, convert it? Like, so there's a song by 30 Seconds to Mars called City of Angels, which is about L.A., obviously.
Really? Who
Yeah, you know, just surprising, but... And wouldn't it be funny if we just instead of saying City of Angels just made it that big long thing and just tried to make it fit into the structure? So like instead of like Lost in the City of Angels. Are you pulling it up, trying to figure out exactly what it is?
No, I am trying to figure out how to save it.
Save a video?
Yeah, it's just good pod.
Well,
okay, we're good.
While you're doing that,
yeah.
Let me tell you a little bit about California.
Sure, yeah. Tell us about California.
Number one, it's one of the country's biggest states.
It is, yeah.
But in population and size.
Yes.
It works for both. And Los Angeles is their biggest city, which is where I will be.
Right, yes.
As well as Anaheim for periods of time. Like Tuesday when I go to Disney.
Mm-hmm. And when you go for the Orioles game.
Yeah, which surprisingly I didn't, like people are like look at me like, so you planned this around an Orioles game in Los Angeles? I'm like, no.
Luck of the draw.
It just so happened that they were there after we planned all the flights. It's just weird like that. But, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
We may see a Dodger game or something like that. I don't know.
Can't go anywhere without baseball.
We'll see where it fits in the schedule.
Yeah.
Or maybe we'll just save it for another trip to Los Angeles on July 4th when the rest of the posse goes.
Is the posse going?
No, it's just...
The family.
Yeah.
Don't call the family the posse. Who's going in July?
EP and Shannon.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant I thought you were talking about a family trip earlier.
Oh, no. That's in like September. We're going up to San Francisco and...
Right. That's it.
Then... God, there's an Airbnb that Brendan found that's like just the mansion of a winery that you can like rent out for the weekend.
What?
And it is ridiculous.
Nice. I'm coming.
It is ridiculous.
I'm coming along.
Just gonna drive up the coast.
I'll drive up the coast. And wait, why will I be able to drive?
Because Rob is also going to be going to Los Angeles. Not this week.
No, not this week. I'm not going this week. Still got work to do. For like the next 30 days or so.
Is it only that much longer?
I think my day-to-day there will end sometime in June, and then I got some trials to finish up in July. But I think it's going to be shifting towards a going in when I need to rather than when I am always there. So,
right.
Yeah.
So maybe you just make a trip to court, basically?
It'll be like a trip to the office to prepare, and then a trip to court the next day, probably.
Right.
But I can do most of what I would need to do, like emails and stuff from home. So I won't really need to do anything like that. So if all of you are following me on on all your social media, which you should, at Robert N. Cheek.
Why wouldn't you?
Of course. And if you especially follow me on YouTube and or on Facebook, you would have seen my big announcement this week, which actually came at the end of the podcast last week if you listened.
Yeah, but it actually dropped after...
on Wednesday.
After the announcement was made on Facebook.
Right. But I mean, even if you only listened to the podcast, you would have heard it. But so I made a big announcement, and big ups to all 1,300 people who watched the video. Thanks, guys. Make all my other videos look like shit, really, because nobody watched any of those videos.
Or the podcast videos, like.
I officially have the most watched video of all of the Anthem brands. It's me announcing I'm quitting my job. So. But, so I announced on Tuesday that I'm quitting the job and I am moving, I'm here for a while. I'm going to focus on writing, and obviously I'll be driving Uber and doing some odd jobs, doing whatever I can do around. And then September-ish, taking the big drive out west and moving to LA.
No, I thought you were thinking of selling the car and flying out. Is that changed? Have you given consideration to the cross-country drive?
I have, only because I looked up the sale value of the car, and after all of the Uber miles, not nearly worth what I owe on it. So if I had put average amount of miles, I could sell it for what I owed. But because I'm putting on all of the miles with Uber, I'll never be able to pay for it. So I'll never be able to make back the money.
Right.
And the last thing I want to do is take a $6,000 bath right before I go out there. So especially since I've saved exactly $0 thus far. I'm paying down debt, so there's that. I'm paying off because here's my policy. I'm paying off the credit cards. That's my goal.
Right.
Because the great thing about credit cards is this. I can pay stuff on them while I'm out there.
Yeah.
And if I don't have money, I just won't pay the credit card. I'll get a job, and then if I don't have money, I just won't make the credit card payment. And, it sucks.
Sometimes I wonder if Visa's like listening, going like, I wonder what Rob's talking about on the podcast. I'll just pick a random one at 110.
There it is. That's him talking about not making his payment. Not that, and listen, I
feel like I should inform CEO Charles Visa of this.
Is that the CEO of Visa?
Or Tony MasterCard or whatever.
But no, so, my policy is always that the credit cards are good.
Or One American Express.
American Express's head's name is Juan.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. He just wanted to Americanize. I understand how that is.
Listen, nobody buy a stupid card if it was Mexico Express. Hashtag socially acceptable racism.
Yes, exactly right. But yeah, so that's...
Unless Trump got it and paid for the wall with it.
Go ahead and swipe that right there, and thank you.
He got a Mexico Express black card with no limit. He's just like...
But we ain't never paying that off.
Let's put a $17 billion wall on this card.
I told them they were going to pay for it. They paid for it. Great. He could just declare bankruptcy again. Wouldn't be the first time. So, wrapping up work there, and I realized how much of a social media presence I have because some of my clients who I'm wrapping up with, like, in the next 3 or 4 weeks. I have, like, trials all week the next 3 weeks.
Right.
And they were like, so I heard that you're leaving. And I'm like, how the fuck did you hear that I'm leaving? Well, so-and-so knows so-and-so who knows so-and-so who saw your post on Facebook. And I'm like, what? How does that happen?
Yeah.
Guys, social media is no joke. Like, literally, you have no idea what kind of outstretched people have. The connections that people have. So, it's kind of crazy. But, so that's it. So, moving on to the next big thing. And I'm going to go... please go check out the video. It's Robert and Cheek on YouTube. The video is still up on my Facebook page.
We'll put it in the show notes.
And so you can hear all of like the detailed news. Just do me a favor. Listen at least halfway through because I got a really good viewer retention right now, and I'm not trying to ruin it. So
go at least 43% of the way through.
I think 48%.
I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Watch at least half. It's 6 minutes and 6 seconds long, so make sure you watch 3 at least.
Speaking of videos, I feel like I should speak to why there wasn't a Hero Ticks this week.
Oh, are we going to address that?
Yeah, because I feel bad.
I was going to treat it a lot like my relationships and just ghost it and not talk about it whatsoever.
Just hope nobody paid any attention.
Yeah, basically.
Like they're just like, wait a minute, it has been 2 weeks.
You go ahead.
Guys, we aim to always hit our mark.
Yes, 100%.
And I was... my intention going into this was I was going to treat it like a television show.
Every 2 weeks.
Where they had the slot open for me and I had to fill it regardless. There was some scheduling problems.
Yes.
On multiple shoots.
Yeah.
And then we had an idea for a sort of like filler episode. Mm-hmm.
Well, not filler.
Not filler in the sense of like...
We brainstormed a new episode that required less of a commitment from our staff of actors and our shooting staff and everything.
Yeah.
So that we could fill in an episode, but not a filler, a fill-in. It was a full episode.
It was a completely original episode that was written for the purpose of
making sure we had one.
Yeah. And that one fell through. And then I wrote an entire another episode.
Yes.
That was going to be even less stress.
Yeah.
For hoping the same effect.
Right.
Unfortunately, this week I had no internet.
Mm-hmm.
I had no power.
Mm-hmm.
And basically there was just no way it feasibly could have happened.
And I do want to say, we at the OD and the podcast fully support labor rights. And I, personally at least, support the Verizon workers who are striking, and they're trying to get better wages, and they're trying to get better services for us.
Mm-hmm.
But guys, you're fucking killing me with this. Because not having internet, because the internet's spotty at work, because we have Verizon at work. The internet at home, spotty at home. You have Verizon internet here, problems with internet here. We support you guys 100%. But it's really inconvenient. It's 2016 and we need internet.
Scabs.
They're just not doing their job
They can't keep it up.
Listen, Verizon, bend to the will of your workers and give them what they're asking for. At least go back to the bargaining table so that we can get our internet back.
Yeah.
And, so the universe seemed to conspire against us this week.
Right.
But as anyone who follows me on Instagram and sees all of my super inspirational posts would see, I am a firm believer in the fact that sometimes things are happening for a reason, and it wasn't meant to be, and we are just going to push onward. What I will say is that a lot of the scheduling difficulties come from the fact that we really appreciate the actors who we've chosen for roles. And we did so with full well knowing, and they decided to take the roles full well knowing, that we can't pay them. So this is a cumulative effort.
Not
of everybody.
Upfront.
Not upfront. Yeah,
it's a profit sharing.
Right. So they know that it's a cumulative effort, and we understand that some of these guys are working actors, and if they take a paid gig, I'm not going to complain about them taking a paid gig over coming to work for us,
right,
for free. So the best way that we can guarantee that we get a schedule of Heretics episodes coming out is if we could pay them for their time on there, and the way that we can do that, you should become supporters on Patreon. Patreon.com/ODAnthem. For, again, as we always say, for $1, as little as $1 a month and upwards from there, you can support the podcast, but you're not just supporting the podcast. You're supporting everything we do with OD Anthem. And that can include the Heretics episodes. It includes the podcast. It includes the expansion of the network. It's the technology. It's everything that we're adding in. All the stuff that we are producing for free content for you. A great way to support us to make sure we can keep doing this is to become supporters through Patreon. It's a once a month deduction for less than a cup of coffee. In fact, I think three of our rewards categories are less than than the price of a large cup of coffee at Starbucks. So if you get Starbucks every single day, just take one of those days and donate it to us instead. And it helps us produce more content for you. It would help us be able to pay actors so we can make sure we keep a better schedule. And I don't want to have anyone think that we're saying anything negative about our staff. They have been so well working with us. The schedule doesn't work out.
Yeah.
But the plan is that as soon as Cory gets back from Vegas and LA, we are back on schedule. We're going to get some stuff shot, and we'll have stuff coming out at regular intervals after that. So.
Yep. And hopefully there won't be any more acts of God that sort of...
The other part of that could be, we are kind of making fun of religion with Heretics, which I didn't think until you said acts of God, that perhaps the Lord's angry. Perhaps we've angered the Lord.
Perhaps he's spoting us.
It could be. It could very well be.
That's the proper change in that, right?
Spite.
Smite.
Smote. What were you trying to say? I don't even know.
I said smote.
Smiting. So we were talking about in the past tense. The Lord could be smiting us.
Yeah, I guess so.
It would be
He wouldn't be smoting us.
No, that smoting is not a word.
Yeah.
Smote. Smiting.
Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah, so we may have brought down the wrath of an angry God.
You'll know for sure whether or not next time we shoot an episode, if there's frogs raining down from the sky, then perhaps...
Also, Cory's tempting fate by getting on 2 airplanes and a helicopter. So, I guess
3 airplanes.
3 airplanes and a helicopter. So I guess we'll find out. Find out next week. Actually, 2 weeks from now. We'll
know for sure, if, like, Rachel all of a sudden, like, comes down with, like, a really serious, like, stomach bug.
Yeah.
On, like, helicopter day. She's like, no, you go without me. I want you to enjoy it.
Storm comes out of nowhere. It never rains. It never rains in LA. Storm clouds, lightning strike. Just sending you a message. Not so happy about the heretics thing. Loud and clear, Lord. Loud and clear. Just 6 more episodes and then we'll be done.
Tragedy today. Cory Baker, filmmaker, crashes into the Hollywood sign in a helicopter.
The irony. Not lost on anybody in this town. But speaking of tragedy right here on Earth, there's some tragedy that occurred on the ice right here in the D.C. metropolitan area. Although, from tragedy comes triumph. Because although we don't have video this week, everyone will be happy to know Cory has gotten a haircut and he shaved the beard.
Yeah.
So from the ashes of tragedy, the phoenix of Cory looking like an adult.
Looking like a human being.
Yes, he's arisen. Back. And it's only taken him 3.5 days to get the stubble that I got in the last 24 hours.
Yeah, pretty much. All right. After the game, a lot of Caps were talking.
Yeah.
They were all upset, as they should be.
Yes, rightfully so.
And they all basically said, this isn't going to happen again. We're better than this.
Didn't they say that last year?
To which I say, they're never going to win.
Yeah.
Ever.
And in fact, if you follow Cory on Facebook or any social networks at LegendCB5, you would find him saying, we're just never going to win it, which was what your post was directly after the loss.
Right.
Yeah.
We're never going to win it. It's not even like the Cubs where like we're cursed or something like that.
Yeah.
It's not like we're not good enough. Just whenever playoffs roll around, for whatever reason, they decide to start playing like 5-year-olds
And I think 5-year-olds is appropriate because a friend of mine from high school has a 10-year-old on a traveling hockey team.
Mm-hmm.
I arguably think that even in the third period of their games, they set up shots better than the Capitals were doing versus the Penguins in Game 6. These 10-year-olds are playing like a pass 3, moving the puck around, trying to get the goalie off. They're not crashing the net.
Listen, the Caps had a furious rally on Game 6.
Yeah.
Losing in overtime is I feel bad for them because, you had a chance to win.
But it shouldn't have been down to that.
No, they shouldn't have been down 3-0 to begin with. But there, for the grace of God, that the Penguins get 3 straight interference penalties, allowing the Capitals to have a 5-on-3 for 2 minutes.
Now, so if they score on the 5-on-3... then it just becomes 5-on-4.
Right.
And then they get another chance to score.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Yeah.
So it was 5-on-3 and they scored and it became 5-on-4 and then there was another interference penalty and it became 5-on-3 again.
Yeah. And they scored again.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So basically what you're telling me is the Caps just need to play half a team.
Right. If they play 3 people, then they have a chance to set up the puck and move it around.
Yeah.
I can't. I thought this was the year.
Yeah.
Because there was no reason that they shouldn't have won it all. They had the best team in hockey. I will say that they probably should have gotten, and in any other sport, they probably would have gotten out of the second round.
Yeah.
But because hockey has changed up the way that the playoffs work.
Yeah, explain that to me, because they were talking about that on ESPN, and I didn't understand.
Okay, so basically, there's 4 divisions, 2 conferences. So 8 teams per conference.
Okay.
The top 3 teams in each division make the playoffs.
So you play 82 games to eliminate 4 teams.
Well, I mean, total in the NHL, you play 82 games to eliminate 16 teams.
Okay, 16 teams.
Or 14 teams.
And then how many make it into the actual playoffs?
16 total.
All right, so 16 teams make it in, 14 teams don't.
Right.
So you play an entire season to eliminate half of the teams.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, explain to me how this ridiculousness continues.
Okay, so
By the way, NFL, 32 teams.
Yeah.
And you play a season and you eliminate it down to how many?
8.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
Wait a minute.
No, not 8.
10.
No. Wild card.
10.
No, it's 8. No, it's 8. Wild card round is 2. Next up would be...
It's 2 and 2, though. It's 2 matchups.
Oh, that's right, because they added the new wild card, the second wild card round?
No. It's
8 teams total. So you get one bye to the first round, right?
I thought it was 2 buys.
One team gets 2 buys. One team gets 1 bye. And then you have a wild card.
No.
Somebody, hey, listen, Alliance.
No.
Let us know how many teams make the NFL playoffs.
Seed 1 gets a bye. Seed 2 gets a bye.
Okay.
3 plays 6. 4 plays 5.
So 12 teams make
12 teams.
That's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
You money-hungry motherfucker. Although since
they eliminate 20 of the teams, so...
They still do eliminate 2/3 of the
but
teams.
Here's the deal. Basically, to try and shorten it up a little bit. The 2 sides of the bracket get separated by conference.
Okay.
And the wildcard teams, the first and second wildcard team will play wherever. They could all be from the same division. Those 2 wildcard teams, but they'll just rank up against the higher seed.
Okay.
Lowest seed wildcard plays the highest seed in the first round. The way the playoffs worked this year, the 3 highest seeds in the Eastern Conference were all from the Metropolitan Division.
Okay.
Which is the division the Caps play in.
Right.
So their side of the bracket had the 3 best teams.
Okay.
Had the 8 seed and then the 2 other best teams.
Right.
So when the Penguins moved on, they were the second best team in the Eastern Conference, and the Caps had to play them in the second round.
Okay.
Under a normal circumstance, if this was the NBA,
right,
1 plays 8,
right,
and then once 1 moves on, they're playing the winner of the 4 or 5.
Right, yeah, instead of playing the 2 team.
Right, so rather than Golden State having to play, Oklahoma City in the second round, or San Antonio, whoever it was.
It's much more likely that you get the best 2 teams at the conference at the
right.
end of the
You would
game,
get a 1-2 in the conference finals.
Right. Yeah.
But in this theory, the Caps play the number 2 seed
in the second round.
The number 2 overall seed in the second round.
Right.
Because of how it breaks down, and
but
it's kind of fucked up. But to win a Stanley Cup, you have to
be the best team.
You have to be the best team, and you got to beat them regardless. So I mean, I don't feel that bad about it. But I mean, if they were playing the Lightning instead, then I'd feel at least there's a better chance of us going on to the Eastern Conference Championship, and then...
And everybody was nervous about being in the playoffs anyway, because they usually lose in the first round. And,
right.
And
this time they lost in
They took it to 6 games. So there's that.
Yeah, but 6... They didn't deserve to take it to 6. They barely won the 5th.
Okay.
I'm just saying,
So they won the first, lost 3 in a row.
Right.
Won the 5th, lost the 6th.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hockey is a sport that doesn't matter anyway, so... I mean, it's not really a sport. So, I mean, really, you shouldn't be that much upset about it.
I say blow it up.
Okay.
Because this team is just not capable. They're probably capable of winning the most games in the regular season.
Right.
But for whatever reason, this collection of people... there's some people who showed up. Justin Williams, who is one of our forwards, is clutch in elimination games. He, for his NHL career in elimination games, has a average goals of 0.68.
Okay.
So out of 100 games, he'd score 68 goals in elimination games, which is crazy.
Yeah.
To pretty much assume that he's going to score a goal.
Yeah.
When he needs it the most.
When the team needs it.
When the team needs it the most. And he scored a goal in Game 6. Didn't matter, but,
So, and overtime, they play an overtime period, and then it goes to shootout, right? Or does it go to shootout?
in the regular season, but it's sudden death overtime, so first goal wins.
In the playoffs. Sudden death overtime.
Well, in the season, too.
All right, so if they play the full period and...
There's no goals.
No goals.
Then they would go on to shootout after that in the regular season, but they don't go to the shootout in the playoffs at all.
Just keep playing.
Yeah.
Period. First goal.
Golden goal.
Okay. So it's it's like basketball, except for basketball's not the first goal. You play full periods.
Yeah, but I guess it's more like football in a way because or baseball.
I guess because baseball
you would have the other team to.
Yeah.
But I mean, if the Orioles are at home and they go to extras in the bottom of the 11th
I get it.
You know, Chris Davis leads off and hits a home run, then it's over.
But it really is more like football because it's the first score.
Right.
Although
even though football's gotten complicated with it's like if you kick a field goal, then the other team gets a chance. But if you score a touchdown, then they don't.
Right. And if you don't score on your first drive, then its next score wins, even if it's a field goal.
Right.
Which I like, because I hate to fucking march down the field and kick the 55-yard field goal and game over. That's bullshit.
Right.
Ravens have been hurt too long on that. But speaking of Ravens, draft day happened in the past couple of weeks.
The Alliance wish to know what our thoughts are.
We heard from the Alliance.
Rob, do you wish to sum up your thoughts?
My thoughts on the draft are this. It doesn't matter. The draft doesn't mean anything. It's very fancy, and I know why they do it. They have a huge build-up. The biggest story that happened in the draft, what was the biggest story from this year's draft? Was it about the draft pick? It was about who got drafted?
It was Laramie Tunsil dropping down to the Dolphins.
Right. A guy smoking weed out of a fucking gas mask before the draft. It's not even about the draft. It's about the game that you play. It's the money ball that happens.
I don't necessarily get the gas mask bong, though.
Well, as his agent said, it's to make sure that no one else around him was impacted by his addiction to marijuana.
Secondhand smoke.
They don't want any secondhand smoke getting out. He is a thoughtful person. He has an addiction he has to deal with.
All I'm saying is that, like, if I'm ever at the point where, like, I need to just, like, I can't even use my hands to smoke weed. Like, I just need to have it, like, attached to my face, then I think I've gone too far. I think at that point, like, if I was smoking or sucking dick to get crack,
right,
then clearly I've gone too far. It's not like a weekend hobby at that point.
Right. I feel like
if I need to have the bong like permanently attached to my face, I think I've gone a little bit too far.
I feel like the gas mask is for gamers, so it's like you can.
Oh yeah, so you're like Call of Duty, and you're just like.
But how do you light it? I guess it stays lit. I don't.
Well, I mean, I guess you.
I haven't smoked weed in a long ever. So
I haven't smoked weed in like a million years, but
not in this lifetime. But
I would assume that if you lit it, and then as long as you continued to like sort of regularly hit it, then it would stay lit.
I'm gonna invent a bong mask.
Yeah.
That allows you to like click your chin. Oh, we don't have video today. Click your chin forward to light a lighter that's set in. You can do the whole deal hands free, right there. That's MacGyver shit. I would have worked way better back in the day.
I'll see if I go to when I'm out in California if I see anything like that.
You should let me know. If you do, then I'll
do a little research.
Yes, yeah.
I'll go see a doctor. I have a bum knee, quote unquote bum knee.
Yes, yeah.
Listen, I need to get checked out. I need a
card.
Need to be part of the system. And then I'll just go in there and peruse and see what they have.
Right.
But I'm pretty sure I'd have to have a California license to do that, though.
I doubt it.
You think?
I doubt it.
Do you think I could wrap it up in a day?
I think
like if I really.
No, I don't think you could do it in a day. I guarantee you it's a multi-day thing, but if you're there for more than one day, I guarantee you could do it.
Hypothetically, I could go there on Monday, and by the time I leave next Monday, I could have a weed card.
I think so. I don't know California law, so I can't tell you.
I'd have to look into that. It'd be funny. It'd be funny if I did. Just come back with my California weed card.
The funnier thing is when you walk out the same day on Periscope, like, okay, so my appointment was at 1. It's now 2:17, and I got my card. This is ridiculous. Why is this still illegal? Why are we pretending?
Just make it legal already. Jesus Christ.
It's essentially, I just walked in here with a paper that said, I am injured, and they gave me a weed card. It's a picture I drew of me with my leg bent the wrong way, and they gave me a card. I don't understand.
I still love the joke from Entourage where Johnny's trying to get the card. He goes into the doctor, and the doctor goes, "You have Legionnaire's disease."
It's a very serious
lung condition.
It's not something we would treat with weed. Are you sure you don't have something else? You know, like what is it? HIV? Does it say HIV? No. I can't remember what else he says. But he's like giving them alternatives.
Yeah.
And he's like, no. Oh, no, I definitely don't have that. No.
Yeah, they said like HIV, and he's just like, tested 3 times a week.
Oh, we just watched the Entourage movie again, guys.
While we were eating Chinese food.
So that gives you a little insight into the inner workings of the studio. But no, I guarantee you in a week you can get it wrapped up. If you make it a priority, because you would have to like go do it. But yeah.
I really think I have to be a California resident to do it, though.
Something tells me you don't. It depends how much you're willing to lie. That's the question.
Oh, I left my license at home.
No, I just relocated here. I haven't gotten my new license. I got 60 days to get a license. I just haven't gotten it yet. So,
we'll see.
Not that I am encouraging you to commit a felony.
Well, it's not a felony.
I think making a statement to a provider in order to get medication is a felony.
Well, I wouldn't tell them that. I'd tell them something else.
I gotta vote me, man.
To which I'm not going to speak of on the podcast, but, you know.
Why? Nobody's listening. It's just me and you here.
It's just me, you, and the internet.
Anyway, so your thoughts on the draft. We got distracted.
Yeah.
The draft. Yes, your thoughts on the draft.
I think the Ravens got the best player that they could when they picked. Mm-hmm. And Ozzie does what Ozzie does, which is he just grabs the best overall talent he can find at every draft pick and just fills out the team with talent rather than, oh, we really need a wide receiver, so let's reach for this wide receiver right now. No, just
wait, be patient.
So the defensive end is the best player on your board. Take the best player. I mean, if it's close, if you have if the second best player on your board is a wide receiver and you really need a wide receiver, then yeah, take him there. But I mean, don't grab a kicker in the first round or the quarterback and.
In Ozzie we trust.
Yeah,
that's what it comes down to.
That's essentially it. I'm not worried about it.
Oh, and I don't understand the people who were so upset. I don't get the whole draft thing because, by the way, the draft essentially means nothing because the people don't have to sign with you.
Yeah, they do.
No, they don't.
Yeah, they do.
They can choose not to play.
Well, yeah.
You go into the draft as a junior, you get drafted by the team that you don't want to play, you go back to college for a year.
I don't know if that's the case in football, though.
I don't really know.
I mean, I know in baseball.
Yeah, they go back all the time. That's I'm using my working knowledge of the baseball draft, which is basically that. Sometimes you'll take a high school player earlier than you would like to try and coax him out of not going to college. Yeah.
Listen, you don't need an education. Play baseball instead.
At least the NBA makes you go 1 year now. Yeah. So good for you, NBA. How about this? Can we just make them get an education?
You got to graduate. You got to go 3 years in the NFL.
Graduate. How about that? You must graduate from college.
Being interesting. Yeah. It's a bold move, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off.
I mean, but really, how much different would that be? That would change everything about the way that people look at the professional sports.
Yeah.
Because you're setting them up for success later in life.
Right.
When they get concussive brain disorder or whatever, and then they can't remember college anyway. But at least they have that degree to fall back on. Just like me. So when the writing
you have a degree in what? Communications.
It's worthless. You went to college in 2016.
You might as well be a theater major.
Well, speaking of worthless degrees, Donald Trump in the news again.
How is that a segue?
Because Trump University.
Oh, yeah.
See, in my mind, it made more sense than I think it did in person. All right, that it did when I explained it. But so, because, there was a whole thing about Trump University got sued.
Right.
Yeah, so worthless degrees and people complaining. And anyway, so Trump's in the news again. Actually, for a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Shall we speed round this one?
Which word would you like to touch on first?
I guess we could start on his spokesman.
Okay, so for those of you who haven't heard the story, I don't know how much of the story that you've actually heard.
What you told me.
Okay, so as far as we know from the spokesman story, basically what happened is this, that he, throughout the 70s, 80s, and 90s, would call and talk to newspapers, and he would pretend to be someone named John Miller or John Barron. Now, his son's name is Barron, so there's a history of him liking this name Barron. Anyway, so this interview came out where he apparently gave an interview to somebody in the early 90s, or John Miller gave an interview and talked about all of Trump's relationship problems, and then Trump said that wasn't me, but a sonologist says, based on everything that I can tell, the voice matches Trump's voice from the early 90s, and Trump has just said, it's not me.
Yeah.
And of course, now his campaign manager, and this is the thing, it doesn't really matter. It was the 90s. Who cares?
We were all high then.
Well, there's probably a lot of cocaine. Check out next week's podcast to learn about the late 80s and early 90s. But generally speaking, if he had just been like, listen, I like to do that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I bullshit around with fucking newspaper people, and I pretend to be my own spokesman. Because I don't trust any of these fuckholes to talk on my behalf. So I would fire somebody, and then I would say, let me clean up this damage by calling him being John Barron or John Miller. And we all acknowledge it, and we're like, he's a maverick. Well, conservatives. Sorry, guys, we're just doing a video. I'm making a jerk-off motion. Oh, my God. He's a maverick. Look, he can't trust anybody. This is the kind of guy we need in the White House, and his points for him. But you ever told a lie, and then you realize he didn't have to lie? You're so deep in the lie that now you just can't come clean? That's where he is now.
Right.
Now he's got his national spokesman being like, well, I don't care if the so-called experts say it was him. Who is this expert? I've never heard of this expert before. Well, it's the leading sonologist from Harvard University. I don't care who they are. Mr. Trump says it's not him. It's not him.
Landy Dan.
It's insane. It's insane. But he's the kind of guy that does not back down. And we all know those people. We know those people who are who will just tell a lie, and then they're dedicated to the lie.
Yeah.
And no matter how far-fetched it gets.
Yeah.
Like, you were in New York last weekend? I saw you Saturday morning. And then again, I saw you on Sunday morning. Yeah, I went up there. I went up Saturday night. Yeah, I got up there. Yeah, but it's like a 4-hour drive both ways, and you had to sleep. Like when I saw you on Sunday morning, you were in sweat, so I know you had just gotten up. Yeah, well, I took the train. You took the train. The train's like $600. Why would you take the train? Well, I got free ticket. You're just digging the hole deeper. Right. And that's what he's doing. He's just digging the hole deeper because he refuses to give in.
We all have a friend who lies. Think about this. If you're seriously considering voting for Trump, you're also voting for the guy who's constantly coming up with an excuse for his lie. Right. He's the type of person who's just like, hey, I thought you said you were going to come over and mow my lawn. Well, somebody stole my lawnmower. Yeah. It's well...
It's sitting right there.
I saw you mowing a lawn earlier. Yeah. And I said, hey, John, weren't you supposed to come over and mow my lawn yesterday? And you're like, oh, yeah, I'll come over after I'm done with this. So you have a mower. Well, yeah, I just bought that one. Since it was stolen? He's like, well, yeah, I have a lawn care business. Of course I need a new mower. Isn't that the same mower you had before? Well, I like it.
That's why I got it.
That's why I got it. Why would I change it up? Don't you keep your mower locked up? Yeah, I have no idea how it happened. Somebody must have really wanted. They say that if you really want something, there's no layer of protection that can really keep it from somebody's hand. I mean, if somebody wants to break in your house, they can do it.
And then when you're dealing with Trump, then he ends that with, who we should really blame? The Mexicans. It's definitely the Mexicans. We need to build some kind of wall. I need to build some kind of wall around my garage to keep those Mexicans out.
Or them blacks.
God damn it. But no, so you are voting. You're voting for that guy.
Yeah.
You're voting
for the guy who always has an excuse and never takes responsibility for it.
And that pretentious asshole guy, which I'll admit sometimes I am. I made a comment today.
No.
Well, I made a comment today on Facebook because twice within an hour, people tagged me in comments or in the comment section of a post that I had not been commented on because they're like, hey, Rob, can you weigh in on this for me? Because they'd gotten the argument out of their league, and then I jump in and I'm tossing in arguments and closing shit down.
You're the bullpen.
Right, basically. And I was just I feel like I'm the superhero. Yeah, bullpen would have been a better example. I should have thought of that. But I'm the superhero where the fight is getting out of control and they're like, Batman, come save us.
Put on the signal.
Yeah, put the bat signal on and Rob comes in and jumps in. Except for Trump doesn't actually know what he's talking about. He's the guy who argues everything, but he argues it with did you see that quote about Lincoln? that he made about Lincoln?
No.
Lincoln came in at a very important time. He did a lot of big things, a lot of important things. If he'd come in like 20, 30 years before, he wouldn't have been able to do those big and important things. If he'd come in later, those big important things wouldn't have been his to do. That's why he's so important. What the fuck did you just say? You didn't say anything.
Also, I'm not to shit on the legacy of Lincoln.
Yeah.
But thank God he had Ulysses S. Grant when he did.
Right.
Because he was just throwing loser after loser into the Civil War, getting moral victories every once in a while, until Grant came in and basically put together an offensive that took Robert E. Lee out of it.
A drunkard. Thank you for being drunk, or Ulysses S. Grant.
I mean, it's I'm not saying that Lincoln didn't have a part to play in the eventual success of the Union over the Confederacy. Right. But he picked a lot of losers.
Yeah, no.
To run the army, and it could have gone pretty badly if he continued that streak. He thankfully got to the person who was able to get him over the edge.
If you want a preview of a Trump presidency, that's a perfect example right there. But yeah,
you have Omarosa as president or as vice president for the first 3 months, and he's just like, she wasn't cutting it. She's fired.
I fired her.
He's wearing a Trump tie that says, "You're fired."
Oh,
and it's like,
God. All right, so
imagine if he like just rotates vice presidential. Like he's just
I could see him doing that. Just a rotating cast of characters in and out.
Like Palin's in there for 2 months, and then he fires her and picks somebody else. And
I stand by my position, as I told you earlier. I am voting for Trump. I am announcing it now. When it comes down to November, I am voting for Donald Trump. Because at this point, fuck this fucking country. Honestly, that the infographic I told you or I showed you last week that said that the Axis should have won the war. They should have. Yeah. Let's just burn this whole fucking thing down and start over. And the best way we can do that is voting for Donald Trump, because he's just going to ruin everything, and then we'll just start over. It'll be great. And I can turn into.
Did you ever see the video, by the way, of the Trump supporters yelling at Ted Cruz?
Yes.
Like he came over to talk to them, and he's just like, "Here he is again, lying Ted." Just like
you gotta wonder. Like, that was the same day that he dropped out.
For once in his life, Ted Cruz was actually like making like cogent points, and he's just like, "No, Donald Trump said to the New York Times." Yeah. That he's not building the wall.
Right.
Just like, yeah, whatever you say, blonde head. It's just like...
But you got to see... No, I got to wonder if something inside of Ted Cruz broke in that conversation. Yeah, like, and he walked away like, I'm done. This is over. I can't do it. I don't even want to lead these people. This is ridiculous. This is my country? Camacho can have it. I don't even want it.
I thought my people were bad. I thought my people were the worst people ever.
No, clearly
but there's
not.
A new low. There's a lower than low.
Yeah. So also, Donald this week actually defended Bernie Sanders, which is a weird pairing that I'm not sure I'm comfortable with. But as you pointed out, he probably has a reason for that.
Well, I imagine that Trump can do the math and figures that there's it would be such a slim chance of Bernie Sanders actually winning the nomination, and he'd rather empower Bernie to keep in the race and, force Hillary to her left for as long as humanly possible, waste money and resources during a primary instead of...
As long as it's not a 2-horse race and you can't focus on each other. So.
Well, I mean, this is what killed Romney to an extent when it was...
Obama.
I mean, Obama had the Democratic nomination locked up as a sitting president.
Right.
So he didn't have to spend any money during a primary.
Yeah.
He just won the states and moved on and could just keep a war chest for the general. Romney had to fight off all these clowns for way too long. Like it went way long in the process before he finally broke free and got the nomination.
Yeah.
So by the time it was the general, he'd already depleted a good amount of his war chest just winning the nomination.
Yeah.
And then, obviously you can't make blunders like he did, like the 47% and blah, 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 blah. But, he was already, he was at a significant disadvantage going in. And I think that's what Trump wants from Hillary. He's like, she's going to win. It's just a matter of when.
And I disagree with that. I think it's
I'm saying,
a race. But yeah, from his point of view.
If he's saying, like, it's a 95% chance that Hillary is the nominee.
Yeah.
And a 5% chance that it's Bernie. I mean, either way, you win. I mean, like, there's no reason for him to go, like, you know, like, if they say, like, what do you think about Hillary versus Bernie? There's no point in him going, like, Hillary's got it locked up. I'm not even worried about Bernie.
Yeah.
Because then people are just it's going to feed more into that, like, well, Hillary's got it locked up. No point in going out there and voting for Bernie. It allows Hillary to move on to the next.
Let me offer you a hypothesis.
Yeah.
Let's assume that the conspiracy theorists are right. And Trump, once it's Trump and Hillary, drops out of the race to give it to Hillary. Because they've been friends for a long time. And this was all a big ploy to finally get Hillary elected, right? And then
it's the only way she can keep from Washington capitaling herself out of the election. That's our new term for choking. For having a significant lead throughout most of the early going and then choking at the end.
Capitaling it.
Capitaling.
So we get to Hillary versus Trump. And Bernie decides not to run as a third party, and there's no other third parties other than the typical libertarian green parties.
Yeah.
So we got Trump and Hillary. Trump drops out. Then shortly thereafter, Hillary indicted. Now we have nobody running for president.
And then all of a sudden people are just like, now who's this Gary Johnson guy?
I think
what's his position on the wall?
I live by the meme that I've been seeing this week, which is like, maybe America shouldn't have a president. Maybe we need to be single for a while and go find ourselves. But have you seen the stuff about Joe Biden this week, by the way?
No.
So back in early parts of the campaign, when they first started talking about Hillary being indicted, before Bernie even got in the race, some of the pundits were saying, listen, Joe Biden's not going to announce because he's not going to run against Hillary. It's her time. But if you see Joe Biden start getting out there, watch out, because that means that they know Hillary's indictment's coming, and so they want to have somebody to step up to take her place as the establishment candidate.
You know what? I don't know.
And what Biden's been in the news 3 times in 1 week.
I don't know what the odds are that she actually gets indicted.
You know who would know that? The Obama Justice Department.
Yeah.
And you know who has access to those files?
Biden. I don't know what the odds are as far as like whether or not she would get indicted. But I think it's kind of foolish that everybody who I talk to who's like a diehard Hillary supporter just like completely eliminates it as a possibility.
She's not going to get indicted.
It's not happening. It's absolutely not happening.
They wouldn't do it. She's running for president. They won't do it.
If they would have done it, they would have done it by now.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, you have to at least siphon off, like, even if you're completely sure that she's like innocent.
Yeah.
You have to at least put aside like a small percent, like, 5% chance she gets indicted.
Yeah.
Like, just because it's out there.
Right. And by the way, I do love that.
And it is a crime.
Yeah.
And it is something that she could get indicted for.
Nixon.
It's one of those. It's one of those. How badly do they want to do it? Kind of thing. Like, you can get arrested for jaywalking.
Yeah, they just usually don't.
Yeah, they usually let that one slide.
Right.
But if you're like jaywalking while black, then of course you're getting arrested for that all day.
Right. But Nixon stepped down for deleting 18 minutes of tape.
Yeah.
Hillary deleted 18,000 emails. And listen, that comes from Trump supporters. I get it. That's a conservative thing that people say. But I can't say for sure that she's not going to be indicted.
Right.
And the Justice Department don't give a shit about the election. They'll do things on their own schedule. They have a case. There are lawyers there. And they're not going to file until they know they have an ironclad case, because they don't want to fire. If you're going to go after the Queen,
you best not miss.
So they're going to make sure that they got it, because if you poison her campaign and a Democrat gets elected, she's coming to them and being like, I will rot your campaign, or I will rot your administration from the inside, or else you appoint me at justice right now. And she'll clean fucking house. Yeah. Everybody will be gone. It'll be the most political firings ever. But
she'll become the attorney general, and then all of a sudden
everybody's fired.
Yeah.
Everybody's fired. Like, hey, John.
She's an attorney, right?
She isn't. Well, she can't practice in Arkansas anymore. But technically she passed the bar. She has been in law school. Yes.
Yeah.
But she sits down with him and says, hey, John. So, looks like the tables have turned, huh? Yeah. Never thought you'd be on that side of the table. So, let me ask you a question. How fast do you think you can clean out your desk? I'm going to time you. You got 2 minutes. Go ahead.
2 minutes, or else my friends Brutus and Pagwan are going to come and clear it out for you.
They're going to come clear it out. They're going to help you out of the building. I expect you to be out in 2 minutes. Thanks. Starts now. Click. Or Apple Watch.
Yeah.
Fitbit. So, but the Young Turks, the guy from the Young Turks posted something and said that he called it long ago. That if Biden starts stepping up, it's because they know internally that justice is about to indict Hillary. And Biden was in the news 3 times this week with different stories. He would make a good president. He would have picked Elizabeth Warren as his vice president. And that he believed that he had a tax plan back in 2008 that would have fixed a lot of the deficit problems that we're having now. I'm like, huh? Why are you talking so much? Why are you talking so much, Joe? All right. But I guess we'll see. But in the meantime,
I would think it would be interesting, though. I mean, like, this strategy didn't work for Ted Cruz at all.
Yeah.
But it might be interesting if prior to, like, California, Bernie was just like, hey, if I got the nomination, Elizabeth Warren, VP. And then
see what happens?
Just see what happens. Just see where it lay.
I don't know that helps him. Because the same people who would back him for voting for getting Warren are already going to vote for him.
Right.
He's not getting any more votes from that. And he's smart enough to know that he doesn't want Elizabeth Warren as vice president. He wants her in the fucking Senate arguing. Because we can't do what every Democratic president always does. You don't see Republicans going into the Senate and being like, hey, Senate leadership, come work for me. Because they know they need the support in the fucking Senate.
Right. But
Democrats go in and are like, hey, all the leaders of the Senate, you come work for the administration now. Mm-hmm. And then we end up losing the Congress. But Trump is the front runner. I'm voting for Trump. You should do it with me. Let's burn this motherfucker down together.
No.
But from one racist to another, I don't know if you heard about George Zimmerman being back in the news again this week. Yay, George Zimmerman.
I heard there was a $65 million offer from racist McSheetsface.
Also, Trayvon Martin apparently also making
Tamir Rice.
And Tamir Rice. Also
all these people are making
requests to purchase that gun. I don't.
Yeah. So, and a bit of a let's file this under. Dude, really?
Right. Yes.
We'll just find the file cabinet. Just go through and just find dude, really, and then I got drop that one in there.
Socially acceptable homophobia. That ain't it. Nope. Okay. Socially acceptable racism. Nope. Hidden hottie? No, that's not it.
We got a come on, man.
Here we go. Dude, what? Okay, is that the one you wanted?
Yeah.
All right, now we're
Let's put it in there.
Yeah.
He decided he was going to sell the gun he used to kill Trayvon Martin with.
Well, he just got it back from the Justice Department.
Right.
And then instead of keeping it, he decided he was going to sell it.
Right. So he had initially put it up on one gun sale website, and then once that gun sale website found out that it was him selling the gun that killed Trayvon, they were like, we want no part to do with this, so you can find somebody else to...
Well, my understanding is the initial post didn't mention Trayvon at all.
Yeah.
It mentioned him selling a gun. And then he didn't get much interest in it. And then he changed the description to include the fact that it was used to shoot Trayvon Martin. In an effort, what the fuck, man? In an effort to get higher bidding. And that's when the gun site was like, okay, wait, we're all about gun sales.
Yeah.
All legal gun sales, we got that. You can't advocate that you shot a kid with this gun and try to run the numbers up. We don't want that. So
yeah. So he was on another site.
But there's always a racist out there who's willing to do it.
And the trolls got to it.
Oh, yes, they did, of course.
And they've bid it up to $65 million.
Yeah.
I imagine in an attempt, obviously they're never going to pay $65 million for it.
Yeah.
But I think in an attempt so that like any dumb redneck who's like, oh, I'll buy that Trayvon Martin gun.
Yeah.
I can shoot myself some black people with that. $65 million. Who's going to afford that besides Donald Trump? Like,
Mr. Trump, you should buy that gun. Oh, God. Right there. And he wins the election because he purchases the gun.
Trump buys the gun, $66 million, just drops it on the podium, and he's just like, fuck y'all.
Starts carrying it in a holster on his hip.
This is how much I love police.
Yeah, you see, you remember when I told you I could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue?
Yeah.
Try me. So, But so Zimmerman says he wants to use the money to support, to fight the anti-gun rhetoric of Hillary Clinton, to support efforts for law enforcement to fight against assaults that occur from Black Lives Matter, specifically assaults that occur from Black Lives Matter activists.
Right, which is an alarming number of assaults.
Yeah, by the way, there's no camera. I am a Black Lives Matter activist, so fuck yourself, George Zimmerman. And finally, to make sure that the prosecutor who tried to prosecute him loses their job and never works again.
Yeah.
Oh, very altruistic goals for you, Mr. Zimmerman.
Hold on a second. I'm going to need to CC this to another part of the file cabinet. Hold on a second.
Go ahead.
Oh, here it is. Sour grapes. Let me just put this in the sour grapes file.
Yeah, just make a notation that cross-reference to the sour grapes file. And by the way, for our
it can be found in multiple places. It can be found in sour grapes. It can be found in Dude What.
For our younger viewers, a filing cabinet is a big metal box. Where
it can be found in Chill. Dude, maintain.
Oh, good. I guess we should really say we upload this to multiple folders in the cloud.
Yeah.
That makes more sense to our younger listeners. So
when you go to your Google Drive,
right, you want to click on the folder that says
Dude, what?
Well, and so in other, I suppose, in other police news,
another Black Lives Matter
news, we can get to a more local story here in Baltimore.
In the Baltimore corner?
That's right.
Where you get the straight dope.
Exactly. So Nero, whose name Edward Nero, one of the Baltimore Six, his trial started this week.
Yes.
And to much less fanfare, to much less media attention, mainly because Mr. Nero decided that he did not want a jury trial. So he will not have his fate decided by 12 people. He chose a bench trial. It will be heard before the judge. And so they were able to go straight to opening arguments and go.
Now, as a lawyer...
Yes.
Still.
Yes.
Currently.
Always. I mean, I'll still always be a lawyer.
You just won't be practicing.
I'm going to continue to pay in order to keep my license active, actually.
Oh, wow.
So if it doesn't work out, I can always come back and do it again without passing that fucking bar exam again.
Yeah. Your opinion from a prosecution standpoint and a defense standpoint, bench trial.
Defendant gets the choice. So.
Oh, I know, but I'm saying like as the defense,
right?
You like this because if you're the prosecution, how do you feel?
Well, starting with the prosecution, I prefer jury trial because I think that there is much less fact and much less law here. This is more about convincing 12 angry people from the city of Baltimore to convict somebody who may or may not have actually broken the law. You saw a shift in their tactics, actually. They've announced that they had a shift in their tactics with this trial. Whether or not that was precipitated by them doing a judge trial instead of a jury trial, I don't know. But
it certainly seems to be a more complex legal argument.
Yes. So what they're not going to talk about the rough ride at all. They're going to talk about the illegality of the arrest, and that once the illegal arrest occurred, and then a death occurred after that the responsibility of the officer, Mr. Nero, who had that arrest, then the death lies on him. And it'd skip all the stuff that they focus on.
If he wasn't illegally arrested,
right, nothing would have happened. It's what we call the but-for test. When you have and it's more of a civil thing than a criminal, honestly. I don't hear about it a lot in criminal cases, but in a civil case, my argument as a plaintiff would be, but for your actions, my client would not have been injured. Well, and then your job is to find another intervening act in between that was the last final chance to avoid danger.
Yeah.
And if you can show that but for my client's actions, he would not have been injured, and you can convince a jury of that, then we don't recover. But if your action is the but for that my guy would not be injured, you have to pay.
Now, I'm sure this is going to be part of the defense's argument.
Right.
The knife turned out to be legal.
Right.
So the reason they arrested him was for the knife.
Yes and no.
Well, I mean, paperwork-wise, the reason why he was arrested was because of the knife, and then the knife was later found to be legal because it wasn't spring-loaded.
Right. The problem, though, is that there's no way that they could have had probable cause that knife was illegal from the first contact they had with him.
Right, but I'm saying because there was I want to say like at least a week where they were arguing whether or not it was a legal or illegal knife.
It's all
like whether or not that would play into the, because I'm sure you're happy about this, that sort of the arrest is being called into question.
Yeah,
as far as the tactics of the prosecution,
right?
But police officers aren't usually subject to criminal action based off of a judgment call.
No, and they should be.
Well,
yeah,
I understand your position on that, but I mean, like, given the fact that there couldn't be a clear answer immediately of whether or not the knife was legal or illegal, despite the fact, does he have any reason to suspect the knife to be illegal or legal? Right. Doesn't that sort of speak to the judgment call nature of...
But we are under this false impression that the police have the ability to make a judgment call. If the officer cannot reasonably articulate to a judge at a later point that at this moment he had the reason to believe that was stronger, what we would call probable cause, that a crime has been committed, he has no reason to begin a contact with you. And the moment at which he says, stop, you are now being detained. He needs reasonable articulable suspicion at that moment that a crime is being committed or is about to be committed.
Right.
At the point at which he makes contact with you and takes you into custody, physically stops your person, now he needs to have probable cause of that. So not only did he not have that, but the thing that they later claimed gave them probable cause turned out to not be illegal at all. The Constitution leaves all your rights in you. The state has limited jurisdiction. And although we've expanded that a lot, it doesn't matter.
Well, let me turn this to another type of argument, because I believe you've told me something like this before, which is you get pulled over and you had drugs in the car.
Yeah.
But the police had no reason to suspect you had drugs in the car.
Right.
But they take a long time processing, much longer than usual.
Right.
And then all of a sudden a drug sniffing dog comes by.
Yeah, so we call it the Rodriguez rule now. Yeah.
Wouldn't that be sort of the same sort of deal in a sense?
Yeah,
like they had no reason to really stop you.
Rodriguez versus United States has now set a rule that 9 minutes. 9 minutes is the timeline. And really what they said is a reasonable period.
9 minutes from stop? Or
9 minutes from the stop. If it's a traffic stop for a typical traffic citation, they have 9 minutes with which to release you. After that, it's an unreasonable stop. So what they do now is they call the dog ahead of time to get around the Rodriguez rule. Policies are shifting in so much as I know local police on the Eastern Shore will now follow you, and they will call the dog and then wait. And when the dog comes screaming up, lights and sirens, then they pull you over so that they know that they have the dog coming within 9 minutes. Because a dog sniff while they are running your information for a traffic citation, perfectly legal. Nothing wrong with that. Dog triggers, now we have a reason to look in your car. And, of course, there was actually a new case that just said, we talked about a couple weeks ago, that said that any amount of weed, a dog hit on weed, is reasonable suspicion to, or probable cause to search your vehicle.
Right, so even if the dog sniffed like a tiny little bit of like crumb that's like...
Because the dog can't tell the difference between a small amount, which is technically decriminalized, as a civil citation now, and a amount to distribute.
Right.
So it gives them a right to look in your car.
Yeah.
But so it's like that, but it's not, because you have the car is a special exception. The Supreme Court has always said that travel in a vehicle and vehicles themselves are special exceptions to the Fourth Amendment. You walking on the street the only place you are more secure than when you're walking in public on the street is in your own home. In your own home, you're supposed to be absolutely and 100% secure. The only way that they can get into your home is with a search warrant or with an arrest warrant, and the person sees you in the home.
Or they're invited in.
Right. Never invite the police in your house. Never. Yeah. They come to your door and they say, hey, can we talk? You say, sure. And you step outside and shut the door behind you. Never let them in your house. Never. Ever. Ever. Don't talk to... And you know what? In fact, don't talk to them. Say, let me know when I can come down and speak to you at the station. I'm going to call my attorney and I'll meet you down there. And then go do that. Never talk to the police. Fuck the police. Nonetheless. So when you're walking on the street, it's the second most secure place, because literally they need a reason to stop you, to talk to you. Not just to anything to detain you, which means you're
an official business, though.
And it has to be official.
I mean,
business.
a cop can. You can be walking down the street, and a cop can be like, "Hey, how's it going?"
And if you stop and say, "Oh, hi, how are you?" Now we have a voluntary contact.
Yeah.
When the cop says, "Hey, stop for a second," and you turn around and you say, "Am I being detained?" And he says, "I just want to talk to you for a second. Am I being detained?" And you continue to walk away.
Yeah.
That is the reason that it sounds so stupid. And I know people who comment on the videos that they see online, they're like, why are you doing that? Because you need to establish very clearly at what point you are being detained.
Yeah.
For cases just like this. Because when the cop says, no, yeah, I just want to talk to you for a second. Okay, am I being detained or can I go? Am I free to go or am I being detained? And the reason you do that is because the moment he says you're being detained, certain things must be met at that moment.
Right.
And in the Freddie Gray case, they didn't meet that. Not only did they not meet the detainer, but then they arrested him, and they didn't have probable cause for the arrest either. Later on, they came up with this thing about the knife, but there's no telling.
Yeah.
Because all knives are not illegal.
All lives.
Because all knives are not illegal, they can't just see a knife and say, we can stop you. Could they have possibly checked it out? Maybe. But the testimony we heard from the first week of the Nero trial is that Freddie was running when the police first made contact with him. He wasn't running from the police. Now, they probably saw the police and started running, but that's okay.
Yeah.
You're allowed to run from the police. Here's the thing. When Rob sees police, he generally starts moving in the opposite direction because Rob doesn't like to have contact with the police. Because Rob says stupid things to police officers. Yes. And although Rob also, police officers say, oh, yeah, would you get that Google legal education? And I say, no, I got that real legal education. Sorry. Yeah. I love those moments, but it's just not worth the headache. So I walk the opposite direction.
Yeah.
But, so. I
kind of saw, there was the video I saw of the lawyer from Philadelphia who got stopped and wouldn't talk to the cops. And then they arrested her.
It is the most ironic video ever.
And I just kept... I was just like, this is Rob. This is exactly what Rob would do.
Well, did you watch it to the end?
Yeah, yeah.
So, she refuses to talk to the police. And they say, if you don't talk to us, we're going to take you into custody. And she's like, I don't have to talk to you. And he says, you have to answer our questions. Then they take her into custody, and they read her Miranda rights.
Yeah.
The first Miranda right is, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney. You have the right to have an attorney present during any questioning. And the officer, none of the three people on the scene were like, hey, wait.
Wait a minute. She was following the first rule of...
She was really just doing that, so maybe we've crossed a line here. And she had nothing to hide. And the thing is, I get a lot of shit from people about that. When, they see me posting about stuff or when they hear me telling these stories, like, you have nothing to hide. What's the point? You don't have drugs in your car. Why not let them search? Because this is the rule. When you don't have to talk to the police, and we established that you don't, when they are allowed to do whatever they want, they're going to do whatever they want.
Right.
And God, I hope, if that happened to me,
and
not only that happens.
But I mean, like, think about it just as your general rights.
Yeah.
Like, I understand that if you take a job, if you want to get a job and they require a drug test.
Yeah.
If you don't want to take the drug test, you don't have to, but you also don't have to get the job.
Exactly. It's a choice.
It's a choice. But I'm saying, there's other situations where it would be, you'd be setting up a precedent for people to do it all the time if you said, like, oh yeah, just drug test, like.
Yeah.
It's like, don't give away your rights just because you have nothing to hide, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Because...
Well, and what I told people was, when I record every single stop, it means that the police need to be especially on notice. 2016 has taught the police, although you're not seeing it in the statistics of wrongful arrest, but it's teaching them that there are cameras everywhere, and you need to be on your best fucking behavior.
Yeah.
Because if you're not on your behavior, somebody's going to record it. New Hampshire police just got in trouble for the Massachusetts police who chased the guy into New Hampshire.
Right.
Did you see that video?
I did.
The guy gets out and surrenders, and they wait for him to get in a position where he is no longer a threat to them. Hands and knees getting down. And then they beat him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you guys. And the thing is,
and you know what?
While they're beating him, some of the cops are standing around and, like, looking. They're looking for people with cell phone cameras.
Right.
Not realizing that there's
a helicopter that's recording.
And then after they get him locked up, you see one of the guys look up and he's like, oh. I want to know what he said into the mic.
Yeah.
I imagine it's something along the lines of, we're going to need the video from that helicopter.
Is that a fucking news helicopter?
But by the way, pussy ass fucking media doesn't help. The reason that we need to do that is because the media had zoomed in on the stop.
Yeah.
And when the first cop throws the punch, they zoom back out because they don't want to have the police beating this man on TV.
Right.
When they do that, when we can't trust the media to put the true story out there, that's why you need to record.
Yeah.
Because we need to know what actually happened.
Well, another thing about, I mean, like, I've heard this from cops before, like friends of mine who are cops.
Yeah.
You know, like, if you run from me, like, if I have a reason to stop you and you run from me, when I catch you, I'm going to beat the ever-living shit out of you.
Right.
And I've heard that, like, articulated before.
Yeah.
And I acknowledge it. Mm-hmm. I acknowledge why, like, why your reaction might be that.
Yeah.
But nowhere else does that apply.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, it's not... Like, if you called into the restaurant to place an order, you're just like, oh, I'd like to place an order. And I got everything set up, and I'm writing it down, and I'm just like, all right, your name, your phone number. Mm-hmm. Just like, and what can I get for you? I just want one pork sandwich. I'd be like, okay, and what else? No, that's it. Just like, you've annoyed me now. Yeah. You've made me, this is the equivalent of me having to chase you.
Right.
When I've told you to stop for a reasonable...
It's within the bounds of your job.
Yeah.
Now, it's made your job more difficult.
And more than anything, it's just annoyed me.
Right. Yes.
So...
When you come in to get your sandwich, I'm going to beat the shit out of
you. Or if you just do that, I'm just like, no, I'm not taking your order, you cunt. And then just, like, hang up the phone. Like, I could do that.
You could. How long would you have your job?
Not very long.
Yeah, and those cops are going to continue working tomorrow and the day after and the day
Right,
after.
But I'm saying, you know, it's not a very good argument, and I don't know why I've seen so many cops who are so like happy to like stick by. They're like, oh man, if I was chasing that guy, as soon as I caught up with him, I beat the ever-living shit out of him.
Listen, cops, I'm going to send you a very distinct message. Please do. Please beat the shit out of me, because I can take the hit. I'll get all of your badges. I'll pay off those student loans. It'll be nice. I'll be set. We'll make that fucking movie because we'll have the goddamn money. I'll give me some Freddie Gray motherfucking money. All right, $6 million. That is going to be a cheap payday for you because I'm going to get up on the stand and I'm going to talk about every bit of how I knew what my rights were and I followed the law succinctly, and then I'm going to light your ass up. And I'm going to settle for just paying off my student loans, and I want those police officers fired. I don't just want them fired. I want their retirements. So I want my student loans paid off. I want their retirements. I want their badges. I want them to walk up to me. I want them to hand me their badges on their last day. And I want them to look me in the eyes, and I want them to know I took their badges.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to put them up on my mantle, and I'm going to start a collection. And I'm going to start a collection of people's badges who I took. I'm going to enjoy not having student loans. And wouldn't that be lovely? And much like Ray Rice's wife, it's worth it for me to take a punch in order to live that life. It's worth it for me to take a punch in order to live that life. I'll take that.
We've gone to shocking lows.
But no, and I mean, this is my policy on life. It's the reality of the situation is. Some of us have to fight so that the rest of everybody doesn't have cops yanking them out of the car because people like me talk shit to cops and know what they're talking about.
Right.
That's really what some of us have to stand on the front lines and hold police accountable so that they just don't do whatever they want. And they still just kind of do whatever they want. But getting back to the Nero case.
Yeah.
They are going to do a judge trial. Prosecution didn't want that. They wanted a jury trial, clearly, but it's the defendant's choice. Defendant, I think, is going on the assumption that there is no legal precedent for him being convicted here. So they're going to go strong on there is no connection between him and the death. He acted in good faith, which there's case law that says that if a police officer acts in good faith and someone down the line then acts in bad faith, that he's absolved of whatever actions that takes. And I suspect that's where they're going with it. That
right.
Everyone's going to throw everybody else under the bus. And Nero's he may testify. Now, I don't ever recommend defendants testify. We talked about that before.
Yeah.
But I think that his witnesses are going to get up there and say, you know, listen, whatever happened in that van happened in that van. He worked under what he thought was good faith, and he arrested a suspect who was running from him. He maybe acted a little rough when he put him in the back of the car, but he was uninjured when he went in the van. And it's the van driver's job to strap him in and to make sure he gets to the district safely.
Yeah.
And he may walk. And the other thing about the jury is you have less of a risk of a mistrial. I think that both sides will like the fact that
there's going to be some sort of a verdict.
There will probably be a resolution, because I think the big concern they had after the first trial was you don't want it to end in a mistrial again, because we'll be doing this for years, just rolling these cases over and over again.
Yeah.
Get a judge trial, get a verdict, because the judge will be able to say, Mr. Prosecutor, that's inappropriate. No more of that. If I hear that again, I'm going to find you in contempt. Or, Mr. Defense Attorney, I'm going to do the same thing. If that happens in front of a jury, mistrial, we're done. You're not allowed to do that. We talked about this in motions. You're not allowed to talk about that. The judge can say, I'm not going to consider that, and you've been warned. And after this, I'll find you in contempt. So, I think that we're going to have a verdict. I would guess probably 4 to 5 weeks we'll have a verdict, and then we'll find out what happens. So, just more signs that the nation, the republic as we know it, has crumbled. They're putting officers on trial, which is good, but the officers are probably going to walk. That's bad. They chose the bad cases to prosecute when there's so many other good ones that they could prosecute. They're decertifying elections. I wanted to get into that just real quick. A couple minutes on that. We talked 2 weeks ago. Catherine Pugh won. Yes. Yeah. But Sheila hadn't officially given up. Hadn't what do you call it? Conceded. Yeah. And then last week it was finalized. It was locked in. The Board of Elections said it was good, and we had Pugh as the mayor. Yeah. Now they've decertified the results, and they're going to look at it district by district, precinct by precinct. Yeah. My thought process, at least from the beginning, was: do you think Sheila might have reached out to some friends of hers in the governor's office? Or not necessarily the governor's office, but I'm sure she has ties to people who can get things going on to look at this without her having to spend. Because if she wants a recount, right, she has to pay for it with campaign funds, right. And I have to imagine you run a campaign like this so that you run out of money at the last day. At the last day, yeah. You want to be tapped by the time you're having your party, kind of thing. Especially this race, because the primary, as we've talked about before, is the race basically. I mean, you can if you tap out at the end of the Democratic primary, you can just make up enough money to coast your way to victory. Yeah. Without having to make cold calls every day and stuff like that. Just the regular donations that come in without any kind of trouble will carry you through. Yeah. Do you expect anything different from this, or? So, here is basically what happened. My understanding, at least, is that the Baltimore City election board certified the results. And they did so despite the fact that there were some reports of some voter irregularities. But what they said was that the separation for the top two vote getters was so large that even if all the irregularities went in the direction of the losing candidate, now, and nobody announced this, I'm reading between the lines, that essentially they said, You lost by 2,400 votes, something like that. And even if all the irregularities went in your favor, it wouldn't make up the 2,400 votes. So we're certifying the election. And the state board is more concerned because the city does not receive federal funding in the same way that the state does. And the state, looking at the Justice Department and how they've gotten involved in police cases and elections and bathroom laws in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
That they may step in here, and there is some concern that the Justice Department may get involved in the elections themselves. And we don't want that.
Yeah.
We don't want this to turn into Mississippi in 1964, where the federal government's running our city elections. So they said, we need to do the recount. You need to count all the votes. There's usually a little bit of discrepancy between the number of voters who actually come in and the number of votes that are counted. We had paper ballots this time. You don't fill in the Scantron completely, or it goes through the scanner. It shows it's scanned, but it actually doesn't count your vote. The reality of it is your vote may not count. That's just what it's like in a society of 300 million people.
Yeah.
But it's the action of voting that counts, not so much that the vote counts. Although in a race with less than 2,400 people. Basically what they said is they're doing a precinct-by-precinct review because they found some provisional ballots had just not been counted. And they are concerned that there may be other irregularities that haven't been acknowledged by the Baltimore City Board, that they just were in a rush to get it certified and get it done. So they're going precinct by precinct to match up who was registered to vote, who came in to vote, what the voting results were, to make sure that all the numbers add up.
Yeah.
And do I think that Sheila called in a favor to do so? No. I think that it's the state board having a growing concern about they don't want this to get out of control. And we know, as we said, that the Democratic election is, in fact, essentially the race.
Right.
And we don't want to have a stain of some kind on this race, especially in a city that has had a mayor that has some controversy and an outgoing mayor that's not very popular. And, you know, we want everything to look like it's on the up and up. And Baltimore City Election Board, I think, was in a hurry to do the, let's reconcile and get moving forward. Let's move forward from this election and start talking about it. And I don't know if you've seen, DeRay has been meeting with basically everybody. If you follow him on Twitter, at DeRay, he's met with Elizabeth. He's met with Wilton Wilson. He's met with basically everybody who's not Pugh and Dixon. I think he tried to meet with Warnock. I don't know if he was successful or not. I think he actually did meet with him. But so they've all met, and they're all talking about moving the city forward. And I think the election board had the same mentality. Like, even if all the irregularities went Dixon's way, she wouldn't make up the 2,400 votes. Let's just move forward. Let's just keep things rolling. And the state has some concern, and they're backing it out. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Well,
so we'll see what happens. It would be a travesty if they decertify and then it comes back closer. It's not a recount in specific terms, because I don't think that they're going to recount all of the votes. What they're looking for is irregularities in the voting numbers. So, number of people checked in, number of votes cast, do the total number of votes for each candidate equal the total number of votes cast, and then looking for provisional ballots that may or may not have been counted. A recount would be going through each individual ballot and assuring that the number or the vote that was cast ends up in the final vote correctly. But if it turns out that there are some irregularities in the numbers, the counting, then they will recount the votes themselves. So she could benefit from that.
Yeah.
And if it looks like it's a little widespread, it could end up becoming a total recount of all the precincts. But I doubt that would be the case.
Yeah.
So I think that it's safe to say that no matter what happens, Catherine Pugh is going to be the next mayor of the city of Baltimore. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Well, you know where you can hear about the next mayor of the city of Baltimore?
Where's that?
OhTheAnthem.com. Cory at OhTheAnthem.com. I don't know why I did the punch. Cory at OhTheAnthem.com. Oh, the Anthem on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and the listener line, 443-219-7595.
What's the number again?
443-219-7595.
And you can find me on all your social networks at Robert N. Cheek. Make sure you check out robertncheek.com for links to my political blog for the news website. You can sign up for my mailing list there on my website. And you can also find links to my books, which are available on Amazon.
Buy Rob's books.
Thank you. We also want to encourage you to follow at Anthem Alliance on all your social networks. That show, which should pop up in your feed Friday or Saturday, depending. Fridays, it's going to be typically Fridays, that you'll be able to check out the new show. It's the new follow-up show for our show, and we'll have more information coming about that in the coming weeks, so make sure you check them out. It's a great program, and make sure you follow them on social networks so you can become part of the growing alliance of the conversation that's going on about the show. The conversation to the show about the other show, basically. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we've done good here today.
We've done something. I don't know if it's good.
Well, let's see. Let's see if you get any cherries in your rear view, and we'll figure that out.
Just wait till I put on that ACAB sticker on the back of my car. But as always, you're listening to the Yo the Anthem podcast, part of the Yo the Anthem digital network. For Cory, this is Rob. Have a great week, everybody.
California girls are so deniable. Something lyrics don't know.
In with Tupac, out with Katy Perry. Good Lord.